Approximately 2.8 million Canadians are below the poverty line, and between 25,000 and 35,000 Canadians are homeless. To help families and those who are low income, there's Habitat for Humanity. Jamie Hall is the CEO of Habitat for Humanity Manitoba. He shares Habitat's efforts and how Manitobans can help provide people with homes on this episode of U-Talk. Let's get into it.
So my name is Jamie Hall. I'm the CEO of Habitat for Humanity Manitoba. And in Manitoba, our offices are in Winnipeg. We've got a small office in Brandon, but we have about 10 chapters, so rural chapters. So we're in several communities across Manitoba and are building across the province every year. And Habitat for Humanity's role really is to build safe and affordable homes purchased by low-income families, and that purchase conditions, the mortgages that we have, are very attractive that will enable a low-income family, to own their own home. And so when they start off, it's zero interest, zero down payment, but most importantly, their payments are only 27% of their net income. And so their housing costs do not overwhelm their overall family budget, and they can use their income to better their entire family.
That's so significant for a lot of individuals in Manitobans just in general right now. A lot of people are feeling that burn when renting prices for a lot of people. It's like half, if not more, of.
Well, and you're bang on, Ryan. Habitat Canada did a recent study last fall that showed that 49% of Canadians spend more than half of their take-home pay on housing costs. So if we can keep housing costs to 27% of net income for a low-income family, that can make a big difference for them.
It affords you the flexibility to do things outside of just surviving, right? If your kids want to do sports, extracurriculars, you have that little bit of extra that you can save to be like, okay, I can provide my children this opportunity.
Exactly. The saving for education is another popular one that our families do. But you're right, giving them the freedom to say, why should just having a vacation as a family be a luxury? Being able to save up and enjoy time together and do the family things that we all come to expect in our society.
Well, and of course, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but what Habitat's doing helps set a precedent and starts that conversation of just housing in general. And I want to get to that a little bit later. When you're mentioning before affiliates and chapters, I'm just a little curious about, what's the difference between those? You're mentioning you have one in Winnipeg, sure, one in Brandon, and then you have a bunch of smaller chapters across the province.
Yeah, so Habitat Canada, which is the national office, we're a member. We're one affiliate of, there's, I think, around 46 affiliates across Canada. We're one of the ones that represent an entire province. So Habitat Manitoba represents the entire province. But you can imagine with the denser population in Southern Ontario, there's many affiliates down there that represent their own geographical area. So Habitat Manitoba is one of the largest in terms of the number of homes built, as well as the number of families served across Canada. We're probably in the top 5. Habitat Manitoba was the first affiliate in Canada back in the mid 80s. And the first Habitat home in Canada was built in Winkler in, I think it's the early 80s. So Manitoba and, in particular, Winkler as the first has a long history in Canada with Habitat for Humanity. And then we have generous communities. And so the chapter network is, we help chapters build homes in their communities, and the chapters are volunteer driven. And so we're working with 5 chapters this year: Winkler, Selkirk, Brandon, Burden, Killarney, and Kenora. I think that's 6 chapters actually we're working with this year. But there's others. Last year there was Dauphin and Portage and others. So we help each of those communities that have a chapter go through the process of raising the funds. Funds are raised locally, and then coordinating the construction of the home. And it's exciting to see that this isn't just a Winnipeg initiative. This is embraced in communities and volunteers across the province that help build homes for low-income families in their community.
Yeah, speaking of the Winkler chapter, before my role here at Multicultural, I worked at Golden West, and I was there for their induction and their first early meetings for the Morden Winkler chapter, and seeing them build homes and the impact that it has for individuals. I mean, for places like Morden, Winkler, and a lot of smaller communities, sometimes the idea of like homelessness or people who are struggling sometimes gets pushed to the side a little bit. You're like, oh yeah, it's just our nice little community. And sometimes you don't notice those struggling. So having these different chapters and people getting in there, volunteering, building homes, and having conversations is so important.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
What is that process for finding a family for these homes? Like, what is the application? Like, is there, what does it look like?
So it's actually different in the chapters than it is in Winnipeg. And I think in the smaller communities, you can imagine that there might be a little bit of a stigma. So I don't doubt that the low-income families are there, but they have a different recruiting process when they're building a house. And also, we're not building houses as frequently. Most of those chapters are building once every 2 years. And so, having a list of dozens of applicants isn't helpful. And so when they decide that they're going to build a house in the rural areas, in the chapters, they will do some recruitment, local recruitment, and do some advertising locally. In Winnipeg, there is no shortage, and I'm often asked how many people need homes or would be eligible. And we don't keep account of that because there are just so many. And so the process in Winnipeg is we open windows several times per year in terms of we're accepting applications. And so anyone that's interested in applying to have a Habitat home can go to our website and sign up for our regular newsletter and our email notifications. And several times throughout the year, we'll just issue a notice that we are accepting formal applications for homes. We have, a piece of property that we may be building in the coming year, and we are accepting those applications. Now, once you get into that process, once you learn about all of the requirements, it is a rather thorough process. And there's really two primary factors. So we have a family selection committee, so a group of volunteers, and this is true of all the chapters, that really they visit with the family, ensure that they are, a family that is in need, and that having, part of the home ownership program will be of benefit to them. And sadly, that's usually pretty easy to confirm. And some of the conditions that our families are living in before they get their home are quite sad. And the second is a deep financial analysis to ensure that it could be that your income levels are, qualify as that low income requirement. And we use the same criteria that Manitoba Housing uses for eligibility for housing in terms of income levels. But sometimes there may be families that have assets that they're, that they have, that savings in place that may say, well, you would qualify to have a down payment on a house. Or in other instances, they have too much debt that they wouldn't be able to handle a mortgage with the debt that they have. And so, the financial work in determining the eligibility of families is really to look at all of those pieces as well. And there are many, many families that would be qualified to be a Habitat family in Manitoba.
How many houses are you building on average each year? Or I guess, like, what is the process and what is that amount that we're looking at potentially?
So we are presently in around the 20 homes per year across the province. We're really working hard to get up into the 30 homes per year, and then hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years be 40 homes per year. And the three, I guess there's four inputs. The first input is having families that are in need. And sadly, we don't see that as being anything that's going to, I look forward to the day where that becomes our bottleneck, because we don't have enough families that need houses. But our three bottlenecks could be land, having property to build a home on, having construction capacity, so having the right trades available at the right times. Yes, we do use a lot of volunteers, but we also, use trades. And then finally, the funding. And so presently, right now, it is the funding piece that, we have property that we can build on. We've got a great team of both construction staff, relationships with trades, and great volunteer turnout. And so the more funding we can bring in, the more houses we can build. So this year, we're targeting to build 23 homes across Manitoba. And if we do get more funding in place, we could build up to 33 homes in Manitoba.
Yeah, that's the challenge for a lot of these things. You may have the desire and the people to do so, but if you don't have the funding there, it can make it a little bit of a challenge to meet the needs of people.
Exactly. Yeah.
We have a project going on right now called Green Toba. So we've been connecting with different businesses and organizations about efficient and green technologies. And I was having a conversation with Prairie House Performance, and they're mentioning about the different work and efficiencies and technologies that Habitat uses in your home building process. And I'm very interested about that. As we're looking at things, net zero, green initiatives and things are much more on people's minds. What sort of policies and things are in place at Habitat for Humanity when building homes? Like what sort of efficient technologies or sort of practices are you utilizing?
Yes, I'm passionate about building energy efficient homes, but it's interesting because the reason I'm passionate is because it's best for the family first. So we focus on the families first, but this is a great example where what's good for the family is also good for the planet.
Yeah, it's multi-beneficial.
Exactly. So building an energy efficient home means that the operating cost for that home for the family is manageable as well. So that is another cost of housing, is the operating cost of your home. So you may be paying 27% of your net income in mortgage payments, but if your hydro bills were $500 a month, that would be overwhelming as well.
Defeats the whole purpose.
We like those hydro bills to come in below $100 a month, including heat. And there's more and more that we can do for that. And we also have the benefit of living in a province where the electrical costs are, I think it's 99.7% renewable energy. And so we work with, a consultant. Prairie House Performance is who we work with, and they're a great partner, to first of all design the house properly. Right? If you design the house to be energy efficient, then that's going to be the first good start. And then we need to build the house according to that design. So that sometimes becomes the challenge with volunteers, but we're very meticulous to make sure that, and we're getting into processes that are beyond my skill level, but ensuring that the house is sealed up properly. And then the technologies in terms of the heat recovery units and that type of thing are installed properly, so that we can have a house that is very energy efficient. And then we're just starting to explore other technologies that can help. And so we have used a couple of air-sourced hot water heater heat pumps that would be supplementing the electrical. And then the next step, we haven't done any yet, but I can envision us moving into the air-sourced heat pumps as part of supplementing the heating and cooling in the home. And it would be great to explore even some ground source geothermal. What we want to do, though, is make sure that the technology is proven. So we don't want to saddle a family with unproven technology that fails in 5 years and gives them a huge maintenance or repair cost, but also easy to use. So we don't want to, even with our heat recovery units in homes, sometimes a family might think, well, if I turn it off, I'm saving more energy. And then you get other problems in your home where we just want to ensure that they understand that this helps keep your energy bill low by keeping your house sealed and using your HRV.
As you're mentioning about geothermal, we're seeing some individual homeowners and businesses moving over to there. And, there are conversations happening with the provincial government around implementing more geothermal. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like, whether that's more implementation for single family dwellings or if it's more of like multiple buildings connected up to a unit sort of thing. So that'll be interesting to see in the future.
All of those conversations. I should say as well around the efficiency and sustainability side, we leverage government funding. And so a lot of the CMHC funding comes with a requirement that we be 25% better than what the building code is, so the average new home. And we've made a commitment to always hit that with our homes. So we want to be 25% more efficient than any other new home or any regular new home that's built in Manitoba. And the other thing we're just starting to get into is retrofits. And so Manitoba Housing was kind enough last year to donate 4 properties in existing units. So 1 unit in a 4-plex envision. And this year we're going to be doing a deep energy retrofit on one of those units to say, we can take some of the existing housing stock in Manitoba, and our objective is to see if we can make it as energy efficient as a brand new home. And so it's not only the new homes being built, but we could have an impact on retrofitted homes in the future too. If we
It provides more housing opportunities. It's reducing those environmental impacts and getting more families inside of homes.
Yes, exactly.
So a core theme of our conversation is one of the things you mentioned before is in the future hoping that a bottleneck would be not as many applicants, or like there's just not enough people to be like, oh, I guess we don't need to build houses right now. That's always a dream because, across Canada, it's happening here in Manitoba. And I mean, there's other provinces where it's hitting way harder. Housing for individuals, families, newcomers coming in, refugees, like in Winnipeg, a lot of Ukrainian refugees who've arrived here over the Christmas break, about half of them were utilizing food banks, and a lot are ending up in the streets. And as more demand for immigrants are coming in, our housing is just not keeping up, or at least adequate housing. So I guess what sort of conversations is Habitat, or is there conversations happening with the government in terms of, how do we meet these demands? What can Habitat do to help meet that role? But, it's not just your responsibility, right? It's yes. a whole provincial thing.
It is. And there's if we think of just our province, we've got a community of different players. And so Habitat is one social agency that's working to find low-income families, but we also value our relationships with other social agencies that may not only be focusing on housing, but the needs of those that are less advantaged. And especially our relationship with End Homelessness Winnipeg, that we're part of, we talk about all of the different social agencies that are involved in that spectrum of homelessness or precarious situations in terms of people's housing. And we're proud to be one of the players, but we're just part of a larger community. And then the other two groups would be governments and then individuals and businesses. And at Habitat, I have the blessing of seeing all three of those work together. And so, yes, we do work with municipalities. In some cases, the municipality will donate land. In other cases, they'll help us with our application processes that are required. The province of Manitoba, especially Manitoba Housing, has been a great partner over the years. And so I think there's, getting on to be 2 decades of relationship in terms of not just funding, but also, as I said, surplus land or housing that needs renovations that bring us in as a partner, that we're both part of it. And then the federal government is new to Habitat Manitoba in a lot of ways, but the last several years of funding through CMHC, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, providing funding to Habitat Canada through a contract with Habitat Canada that does flow through to the province. But also, I think you're right, you said it, Ryan, being part of the conversation. And so being able to have conversation with those different levels of government and being respected as a contributor to that. And I would say that certainly is the case. And I do have to say that our individual, like Manitobans, whether it's from an individual perspective or an organization perspective, are part of that as well. And I'm often asked, what can we do? How can we participate in solving this social issue that we have?
Are there specific things, policies, or just involvement that you would like to see that you think would help alleviate some of this pressure that we're seeing?
If you look at the work that's been done in recent past around the Housing Accelerator Fund that the province or that the feds are talking about, they've got the topics right. Whether the funds are flowing and flowing where they need to, but the process of building, sometimes gets a little onerous, and all of the application process, the permitting, inspection processes. I don't want to say they're not needed, but we need to always be looking to say, are they appropriate for the work that's being done? And
it could be like a little bit too much bureaucracy in certain areas.
That's true. Yeah. And there's streamlining opportunities. A second is infrastructure. If you think of just sewer and water and electrical, if the pipe isn't big enough and it was installed 80 years ago, that is an issue. And so you see those funds focusing on you can't build a house if you can't serve it with the sewer and water and electrical and other services. So that is an area that I think is going to need a lot of attention. And some of that infrastructure, if you're thinking of infill housing, is pretty old too, right? So that needs to be a consideration as we move forward. And so I think we're focusing as a society, and it's often coming through the government programs in the right areas. It's just when you see the need, it always seems that it's never quick enough.
Yeah, when you see people suffering, it's like, all right, come on, let's get things going.
Exactly. Yeah.
How can Manitobans, Winnipeggers, Canadians get more involved in Habitat and Humanity? We're talking about conversations, volunteers and stuff. Well, where's the need that Habitat needs? I mean, how can we get involved and help?
Great question. And so first of all, I want to focus on community. So I say this as an invitation. If the housing crisis is touching your heart as a Manitoban, then we invite you to be part of that solution. But there's so many other needs in our community too, and great social agency partners that we have. The wonderful thing about Habitat is there's many ways to give. Of course, funding, and I talked about that already. We need funding to build homes. But we had over 2,000 volunteers out on our West project last year. So volunteering your time is another way that you can help Habitat. And then we have our Restore. And if you want to talk sustainability and efficiency, our Restores, the money that we make from our Restores goes into our Build program. And so, it helps us to build more homes for families. But it has become a great way for both individuals as well as businesses to recycle. And so if you have items, it's often building materials, but it doesn't just have to be building materials. You can donate it to the Restore and we will sell them. And that the profit from our Restores goes into our Build program overall. And so we have both individuals, you're doing a renovation on your house and you're salvaging your kitchen, but it's still like, cupboards that could be used by another individual. Donate them to the Restore. We have many companies that, if you think of a flooring company or a lighting company, that when they do inventory at the end of the year, we've got product that isn't moving, we're going to donate it to the Restore. We have building material companies that, it doesn't quite meet spec in terms of what we would sell this particular product for, but we'll be transparent, donate it to the Restore, and we'll be transparent that, if that product that you're looking for, if your requirement isn't that it's as perfect as you might find buying it full retail, you can find it at the Restore. So both donating and purchasing from the Restore, we estimate that we divert 3 million pounds a year from landfill just through the donation at the Restore. So
fantastic.
So it is a win-win-win if you're donating to and shopping at the Restore.
Fantastic. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for taking this time to chat with me about the significant importance of Habitat Humanity and having these conversations around housing here in Manitoba and across Canada. Where can people go to find out more information about Habitat for Humanity?
Visit our website, habitat.mb.ca, and you can find out everything you need in all of those different areas.
Have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight? Leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.